Prelude to a Young Musician seems. Am I on? Is the mic on? Yes. Prelude to a Young Musician seems like a strange choice for Tom's farewell sermon, so I want to explain. Um, Tom, I was a young musician when I first heard your words, and you got into my consciousness. And so when I thought about what to play as a prelude, I thought this really kind of explains my own spirituality in a nonverbal way, of course, as a UU musician. And this is thank you for speaking to me in my mid 30s when I first encountered your wisdom and being part of me all through.
The birds are fucking. Chilling. Or they're fighting. I'm not sure which it is.
Huh.
Those people are all textile again.
The ones in the tent.
Mm-hmm.
Look.
Thank you, Barbara. That was perfect as usual. Just the right mood for us today. Thank you, everyone, for being here on a very special Sunday with our very special person. I'm Suzanne McQuaid, the Service Associate. Welcome to our Liberal Religious Community Summit. We are a community bound by shared principles that are drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature science, philosophy, and personal practices. We are a religion of love and inclusion. Our mission here at Summit is to build a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. Centering thought. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty, for yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Announcements, Aaron.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. And Reverend, we are going to miss you so much. You've helped me so much in my life and so many people. I'm just going to miss you. And my nickname for you is Reverend Tot, Tom Owen-Towle. So Reverend Tot, we miss you well on your journey. I'm Erin, the co-chair of Social Justice and Action Committee. And I just want to remind everybody on June 22nd is the second annual Pride Walk in Santee. If you're in East County, this is a big deal. Last year we walked, we had over 300 people. It went so well. I have flyers in the back on that table, but I recommend that you take a picture of it to save paper. And we will be supporting Santee Methodist Church. They need volunteers. There's going to be food trucks this year, speakers. The mayor of Santee is showing up again. Progress. Again, and they need volunteers ahead of time. There's a QR code on the flyer. It'll start at 11 a.m. with speakers. The walk starts at 12. Again, last year's Summit had over 30 people show up to support them. So go Summit. And also next Sunday is the Social Justice and Action Committee meeting at 12 o'clock in the library. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin. It's wonderful to see old and new faces here today, and descendants, and co-in-laws, everything. Land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that our fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land. The Kumeyaay people have lived on this land for more than 10,000 years. It continues to be their home today. We recognize the abusive history of colonization in California and honor the legacy of the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. Thank you for being with us today for a time of reflection and connection. We invite you to stay after the service for our community gathering when you'll have a chance to give feedback to the speaker, share a joy or concern, and then after that, refreshments in the salon. And we're going to have a longer break than usual between the end of the service and the circle song and the beginning of circle discussion because Tom will be in the lobby with all these wonderful books he's given away. 24 books I think he's written. And I'd like to thank all of the people who put things together today. Joanne and Jamie, thank you for your wonderful organization. And tech team, thank you. We've got a tech team of 3 today. Chris, Gabriel, Patrick, and ushers, Janet, Nancy. Most of all, gratitude to Tom. Okay. Chalice lighting. Would his granddaughter come up and light the chalice? Yeah. Thank you. Oh, it's just right over here. We gather as many drops, each winding our own path down life's surfaces and ruts. Here we pool together as a single body, flowing together for a time. Together we are a stream, at times even a river, for with our shared force, we can travel through oceans of meaning and seas of connection. You have an aspiration? Time for 10:18. Gathering hymn 10:18. Yeah, oh, sorry. I let you sit down. Okay. There's a very humble introduction to Tom in the back of your order of service, but it's very self-effacing. He's been an ordained minister for over 50 years. He's written the 24 books. And I'd like to say a word about Carolyn, who recently passed, but Tom and Carolyn both contributed so much to Summit. You'll hear much more about Tom's contributions through the service, but this tapestry would not be here if it was not for Carolyn and her association with the Menge. I think she was one of the founders of the Menge in San Diego. Also the Phoenix tapestry that's out in the lobby. And this little table here was given by Carolyn and Barbara Jania Smith. So, and Tom's accomplishments, I didn't read about this one in either, but he marched across a famous bridge in Selma in his past. And we probably wouldn't be here in the shape we're in today if it wasn't for Tom. You'll hear a lot about that. And now he's got a reading.
Thank you, Suzanne. I mean, it's going to be an emotional service. You up to it? As my friend says, let your tears wet the ground. Something might grow. I know I got a handkerchief, but I'm going to let him wet the ground too. Suzanne's blessed husband, John, was one of the reasons we got here too, in the shaping of this building. And the first memorial service was John's mother. What's the name of the dog? Your dog? Louis.
Oh, don't tell that one.
No, we're not going to tell stories about Louis, but Louis played a role too. When we could find him. This is a reading, prayer for this congregation. It was composed by Nancy Schaefer, a colleague of mine, who lamentably died at the age of 62, way too early. One of the truly brilliant writers in our movement. May each one among us have skin that longs to touch other skin. Fingertips that long for other fingertips, or whole hands, and even arms. Bodies that want to stand next to other bodies, not alone, while singing and bending and stirring soup. May ones whose skin doesn't cry out for other skin wish it did, and so teach it, so that no one stands alone, and no one aches and does not say so. May our doors here be so open that it's drafty inside here. And people sometimes shout because noises without also come within. And may those sheltered here sometimes cry all at once, letting tear water clean what words by themselves cannot. In silent times, may everyone present hear everyone else breathing and know this is not separate from how the universe breathes every night. May we always have enough room for those that want to come in. And may those who cherish this fellowship be so glad that they can't stop talking, stop asking. And may that crowding itself be a gladness. May we notice each one who is new and invite her to stay. And may our list of names for the holy not ever be finished. And may we hear God chuckling as we still find more names.
Thank you, Tom. And for all the joys and concerns today, unspoken, all today, we hold you in our hearts and minds and send you comfort. And time for all ages.
Of the young and young at heart up front, because Tom is going to do some magic for us. And it's a close-up. Might want to come see, so come on up.
Yeah, that's good. No, I don't need it. All right. Pat Brining of blessed memory, right? Years back when I was interim here from 2009, 2010, I did a trick one morning and I blew it. I've come back. Hang with me, huh? I know, you guys weren't even around then. Okay. 3 ropes, right? Short one, medium size, and a long one. You know, you and I have troubles being okay with who we are, don't we? We want to be somebody else sometimes. We're short. We're not in the class and the school ground. We're not chosen sometimes to play in the volleyball game. Sometimes we're really too tall. Tripping all over ourselves. Tall drink of water, huh? Or we're just medium size. How did I just get to be medium? I'm not even seen. But I got news for you. Got news for you. The great weaver of all ropes. She's looking down upon us and she said, "You're all beautiful and equal." Yeah. You seeing that, Pat? You seeing that, Pat? Yeah, Shorty. Shorty, you're beautiful as you are. You're enough. Tall drink of water, get over it. You're special too. And medium, you're beautiful too. And only when we get to that place where we're there's Shorty, yeah. We're all special people, and we're okay as we are, okay? And you know, there's a song, Libby Roderick, one of our sisters up in Spokane, Washington, wrote it. This song, maybe if you know it, sing along with me. If I can remember it. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How Hey, are we blessed to have her here? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got it.
You got it? Okay. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay, Mary and I lost our mates this last year. 37 years?
38.
38.
How many for you?
50. Didn't quite make it, but who's counting, right?
Right?
Who's counting? And as my therapist says, you got to live dualistically when you lose a precious mate. And you cherish the past, the glories, the challenges, the log jams of the past, but you never forget. You don't forget Paul, I don't forget Carolyn. No. They're gone physically, but they live on in our hearts. But we got to move ahead. Yeah. We got to move ahead and forge a future too. Otherwise, you just sink. You just stay in the past. You languish. You got to move ahead. Both and. Live dualistically. So I want to show you something. Look at this nut and a bolt. You can play with it a bit. Move it around. It's just normal, right? I've got to make sure this is normal. That I didn't pull something out of a hat or something, right?
I have a whole garage full of these.
You do? Yeah.
A whole garage.
I bet. I bet. Okay. This is just a normal thing, right?
Right.
Okay. Look at it. Everyone can see it. You can see it, Marion. I can see it. Our faith says we got to keep growing, keep evolving, keep finding joy and love. We gotta soar. And rise. And rise. And rise and rise. Did you get that? Let's do it again for those that didn't see it. Okay. Roll it up there. Okay.
I'm not going to make it tight.
Yeah.
Because that would be defeat the purpose, I'm sure.
As we live dualistically.
Okay. And rise.
And your mother lost John, too.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
We're remembering John. Can you see it? So rise, Mary, rise.
Whoops,
What happened?
that was a child.
Okay,
Okay. Now don't sit down yet, Tom.
okay, okay.
I'd like to invite up Tony. Where's Tony hiding there? We have a little something to share with you, Tom.
Thank you.
So Tony has some stories to share about Tom when he was here at Summit as our interim minister. So we're going to start with that.
Hello, good morning. In 2004, Reverend Ned White, a much-loved and longtime minister of Summit, announced his announced his resignation to accept a position as executive director of a UU program in Shelter Rock, New York. When such a shift occurs in a congregation, an interim minister is typically contracted to sort of hold the reins until a settled minister is called. It is sometimes and often a period of disenchantment and disorganization, sometimes even chaos. But not so when the interim minister is the Reverend Tom Owen-Towle. Tom and his wife, Reverend Carolyn, had recently retired as settled ministers of First Unitarian Church in Hillcrest, where they had been settled ministers for over 20 years. Tom had, as interim minister of Summit from 2005 to 2007, Tom shepherded Summit, and under his gentle leadership, so much was accomplished. He inspired a group of lay leaders who, with him, transformed Summit. And in terms of inspiring leaders, Tom made you an offer you could never refuse. If he asked you to take on something, you did it. and you did it smilingly and lovingly. Also, as I mentioned, so much was accomplished during his tenure here. A major capital campaign was successfully organized, which led to the purchase and renovation of this very campus here in Summit. It was already mentioned that John McQuaid was very instrumental as part of the lay leadership that led to this, and also Pilar Plicone-Willie. The two of them really, along with Tom, shepherded getting this campus set. A new RE director was hired, our very own Mary Carter Vale, during that time. A full-time administrator was hired, Linda Peck. And the congregation continued to grow and thrive. And in 2007, a settled minister was hired. And of course, Tom's sermons always made you cry. They inspired you to be the best version of yourself. And so, Reverend Tom, we would like to thank you for all that you've given of yourself to Summit. And we wish you joy in your next journey. And so thank you, Reverend Tom.
Dear blessed.
I have a couple more words for Tom. I first met you when I was 19. Yeah, at First Church. Yeah, now I'm not 19 anymore. Yeah, Paul and I just moved to San Diego, and we got very involved at First UU and with the young adult group at the time. And some of those folks are still my dear friends to this day. But when I took this position here at Summit, which was a little after the move, Tom was one of my mentors. And you shared with me your book of stories, and you helped me find my own voice on the pulpit. So I really appreciate that. And so many people have stories to share. This wonderful scrapbook was created by the Summit community, the leadership of Joanne. Where's Joanne? Oh, there she is. Okay, Joanne and Jamie took the lead on this and created this beautiful scrapbook with lots of little notes and remembrances for you to enjoy at your leisure. We love you.
That's beautiful.
Now it's time for me to head off with, we're going to go play with optical illusions after magic back in RE. So can we do our Do Re Mi song and head on off? You guys ready? All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for everyone's contributions to the wonderful book that Joanne made. And they mentioned Linda, and there she is in our back row. So, Spirit of Life, number 123. Oh, and what color book? And we turn things over to Tom.
Before we go into the prayer, I want to share a word about that hymn. It's our signature hymn. Carolyn McDade is the tail end of her life. She's 88, back in New England on hospice care. She wrote that in 1982 and was coming out west, touring the country, and stayed with Carolyn and me. And she said, people need to realize that I wrote that in the middle of the night after the mayor of San Francisco, Harvey Milk, a gay mayor, was killed. and I couldn't sleep. So it's a prayer of hope for a more inclusive and beautiful world. Let us join together in some moments of prayerful meditation. O eternal Spirit of life and liberation and love, our prayer is simple. Be our companion. Comfort those who are struggling all over the world where there's strife, terror, warfare, racism, exclusion. People are hurting. We are hurting. Be our partner, be our companion. Bring us comfort. And also challenge us. Those of us who are despairing or lazy, can't get going, give us a boost. Remind us we're more than we think we are. We've got a job here to do. Challenge us. And let there be peace and unrest and peace in our life. Sufficient peace to deliver serenity and calm, but enough unrest to keep us morally awake and spiritually on our toes. Peace and unrest, unrest and peace. Shalom, salam, ashe, namaste, blessed be, and amen. I can't think of a better place to be for perhaps a final sharing than here. 36 years ago, Carolyn and I at First Church, along with Betty Boone, of blessed memory. Betty died this last year also in her 90s, and always remembers the launching of Summit to be a highlight of her life. And I'm going to name a few names, and if I forget a name, yell it out, that were a part of working with Betty Boone. Some of you are here today. Ed and Connie Henry, Janet Dixon, Jack and Mary Ellen, you were around that time? The Shoes. Lisa Garvey. Any others? It's a good crew. And a lot of them are still here. And all those of blessed memory. Remember the Moores? Bob and Dolores? And today, all of the co-celebrants and officiants, and Suzanne, my heart to your heart. You were Don and Barbara? Great, wonderful. Yeah, meetings at your house. And I'm looking over at some of my family there. And one of the family members that isn't here today because he's working, two of the family members, Russ, who's flying airplanes, our son, and grandson, Owen, who's working at the airport locally and preparing to complete his education at San Diego State. He made, when he was 8 years of age, the this work of art on my last Sunday in 2010 here. And I look a bit better than that, but now, picture me up there and seats, and I'm taking this to Santa Barbara. And I want to thank Reverend Casey Pandel, your current minister. I knew her before you knew her. I was preaching up in Fullerton. She was a member of that congregation and had lost her beloved partner. And it was around that time we connected a bit, and she said, I think I've got a call. And she's answering the call by being with you. And I've told her I'll companion her as long as she needs a ministerial buddy along the path. You got a good team here. You got a good, solid team. Lay and staff, professional, shared ministry. Shared ministry. Shared ministry. And yeah, I got a gift for you after the service. You can say, yeah, he's cleaning out his garage, but it's really more than that. I brought some books that are from my heart and last 35 years. And I want them to go to you. And if you already have one, there's a cousin, there's a neighbor, there's somebody that might be able to be touched. And you know who they are. And I'll be around afterwards. We call it the sharing time or something, right? The circle sharing. They used to call it talk back in other congregations. I never liked that. It's not talk back, it's talk with. So, but you got to bear with me today. I'm going to preach on remembrance, since it's my final sermon in San Diego, really. So I'll be moving shortly to Santa Barbara. Shortly, who knows? Takes time. I married into a museum. And we're resolutely yet and purposefully going through things, some of which Carolyn would be moaning that they're leaving. But when your mate dies, you're in charge. Do the best you can. Most fulfilling 46 years of my life. But I need a new identity, a new location. I was talking to Lisa about it. I think you understand. There's no perfect place. There is a reasonably good next place. That's what I'm aspiring to pursue. But it's not about me today, it's about you. So let me get to it. In your singular history, yeah, it's been intertwined with mine personally and professionally. But I want to pay homage to each of you. I know most everybody in the room here. And for those I don't, heart to heart. Deep thanks for all that we've shared together, and yes, a resounding yes to what lies ahead for each of us, wherever we might be. But the task of remembering is complicated. It's not easy. Lot's wife in the Hebrew scriptures looked back and became a pillar of salt. This reminds us that a person to whom only memories are left approaches the inorganic state, becomes like stone. Even when our future looks bleak. My other one's on, right? Yeah, it's going okay. I've done memorial services in the Midwest in snowstorms. I know how to handle it. I'm okay? Okay, thanks. We become museum pieces if we stay stuck in the past. Nostalgia simply ain't what it used to be, as the saying goes. Nevertheless, if we ignore or minimize our history, if we bury the past, if we forget our ancestors and precious loved ones, if we deny yesterday, we're incomplete beings. We wither on the vine. We sink rather than rise. I want to invite every one of us to lean far, far into our spiritual ancestors until our eyebrows knit together. And so we would pay tribute, special tribute, to all cemeterians of blessed memory, those departed from our families, this congregation in the greater world, fellow travelers who've touched, often transformed our very lives. Let us pause in reverence, silently remembering their names and faces. I am a circle, I am healing you. You are a circle, you are healing me. Unite us, make us one. Unite us, make us one. The French writer Jean Lanier reflected upon the Jewish cemetery in Europe where his ancestors were buried. And when Lanier was 10 years old, he visited Kutenplan, the village in Czechoslovakia, where his father was born. The Jews of the village had all moved to Vienna, Prague, and other cities. The cemetery had been closed for years, so they had to get a key to even open the iron wrought gate. The gravestones were overgrown with brambles, but eventually Lanier came upon the grave of his great-grandparents. And big, juicy strawberries grew on it. And he enthusiastically sampled them without his parents minding. Only much later did I marvel at their good sense, letting their little boy eat those big, juicy strawberries in the graveyard. You see, much of my attitude, Lanier says, toward death and my feeling of being a part of a web of life came from that primal experience of eating fruit nourished by the dust of my ancestors. And a similar snapshot pops to my mind from my own ministry. We would hold an Easter morning service in the rustic canyon behind our First Unitarian Universalist Church sanctuary. And early in the morning, before families arrived, we hid Easter eggs amidst the brambled bushes on our plateau. And after an intergenerational service of poignant sharing, the children were released to hunt for eggs. This was the same canyon where the cremains of congregational members, usually in private ceremonies, have been scattered for over 70 years. Incomparable to Lanier's graveyard, our parish offspring would blithely come upon eggs mingled with the ashes of their spiritual ancestors, coming to grips in childlike fashion with the wisdom that life and death are intermingled, holy forces. You don't get one without the other. As Unitarian Universalists, this much we know to be true, that life and death are intermingled, holy forces. And furthermore, nothing dies that's remembered, especially when remembered in the character and conduct of our own days. Whatever we've got left, carry them forward. All of us yearn to be remembered. Because the opposite of being remembered isn't merely being forgotten, it's being dismembered, torn, cut asunder, lost. But you and I know that remembering or looking back is complicated. It took Yahweh, so the story goes, one day to take the Hebrews out of Egypt, but 40 years for the Hebrews to take Egypt out of themselves. You see, the heart of the Exodus experience wasn't whether or not the Red Sea parted. The real miracle was that a group of people finally realized you shouldn't hole up in Egypt. You can remember Egypt. You got to remember Egypt, but you can't stay there. Any religious impulse that isn't toward change, rising, evolution, growth, spells regression, not advance. As Buddhist sage Thich Nhat Hanh puts it, let us be committed to continuing manifestations, continuing manifestations. And so you cemeterians march onward to your next mission, 30, 40, 50 years and more, when most of us will be underground. So today's sermon is about remembering, then moving on ahead, but we need to remember first. You can't transform what you've not first blessed. And so on this Sunday, we celebrate our past. We honor the brave and the bold early cemeterians, those who climbed the mountains of our faith. They tumbled backwards, sideways. They got back on the trail, climbed some more, ever upward toward the unreachable summit. Good word, good name. The unreachable summit. You don't get there. Moses looked out in the promise, he never got there. We're not going to get there in the promised land in terms of interpersonal and international justice and security and inclusion for all. We won't get there. But we got to stay in the path. The unreachable summit of our life-affirming, loving, and liberating religion, never failing to heal ourselves on the road toward repairing the world. You know, the Christian doctrine of the communion of saints is pretty basic. All it says is that once you buy the farm, you still live on the farm. All it says is that once those who have gone before us are still with us. All it says is that past generations matter. It must always be taken into account. Animals and objects, ground and foliage included, everyone and everything, as our universalist gospel says, either everyone gets in or no one gets in. In other words, once we sign up and sign on, we're in this spiritual adventure together. Once we claim membership at Summit UU Fellowship, we belong to one another. We're beholden to one another. Our eyebrows are knit together. Every one of us holds full membership in the communion of Summitarian sainthood and always will. And as for any fence sitters in the room today, don't have to raise your hand. There's not a better time, and particularly newbies, in the history of this congregation in the history of East San Diego County. My goodness, in the history of America. To enlist, sign up, and sign on as stewards of this holy quest of what I call free-thinking mystics with hands. Now's the time. Now's your time to pledge or repledge your troth. I love that word. We don't use it anymore, but it marries trust and truth. Can't get a better word than that. Troth. Pledge your troth. And stumble and fall short, and then renegotiate and sign on again. And to deliver to Summit the very best portion of your being. On this day of remembrance, let's start by fully acknowledging that we are stardust. Cosmic dust. Small particles of matter floating through the space of a known and unknown universe. Wow. What a blessing. Wow, what a responsibility. But there's more. Your journey and my journey didn't begin at birth. We start way earlier, eons back, with the mothers and fathers of our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, and even before. Our character seeps into our corpuscles, carried on in the songs we hear before we knew what the words even meant. Life enters us with voiceless smiles. Picture them. Distant looks, whispered secrets, smells, and stories, all incorporated into our very tissue before we're aware of it. Our destiny arrives, you see, bound up with a caste and class, color and gender, language and orientation, even cuisine. I know I'm getting carried away. As the Danish theologian Søren Kierkegaard put it, we meet ourselves on a ship already launched, a journey already underway. What a root-filled, cross-fertilized, soulful enterprise each of our life stories is, and laden with humor too. Tom Brokaw, remember Tom Brokaw? Yeah. The retired TV news anchor was wandering through Bloomingdale in New York one day, shortly after he was promoted to co-host on the Today Show. And that show was a pinnacle of sorts for Brokaw at the time, after years of work, first in Omaha, then for NBC in LA and Washington. And he was feeling, pretty pumped up about it, even a bit smug. And he noticed a guy watching him closely, and the guy kept staring at Brokaw. And finally, when the man approached him, Brokaw was sure he was about to reap the first fruits of being a New York television celebrity. And the man pointed his finger and he said, Tom Brokaw, right? Right, said Brokaw. You used to do the morning news on KMTV in Omaha, right? That's right, said Brokaw, getting set for the accolades. I knew it the minute I spotted you. Then he paused. Whatever happened to you? Oh, fame can be so flighty and fickle, can't it? When the garage is cleaned out and the books have been passed on to the kids, and somebody's got to take something to the dump. There's always someone to put our personal odysseys in perspective. The present moment happens only once. Summit has turned 36 years old. you're rounding into early midlife. Way back, people were talking about 35 was the home stretch, but that isn't true anymore. You're rounding into midlife. Growing up hasn't been easy here. You've experienced countless ups and downs, sideway detours, log jams, breakthroughs. Parishioners have come and gone. Some have quit on you. You suffered your share of fallen brothers and sisters who've passed on the glorious mission into your hands. In a couple of weeks, we celebrate Pierre Vaughn. And there are more siblings waiting in the wings of this sacred caravan of saints, both those who will fall away and those who will rise up. Again, I say, nothing dies, it's remembered. If we remember and are remembered, life endures, meaning reigns, and hope sticks. But we're not the first to suffer, or rebel, or fight, or love, or die. Or Jean Lanier put it, we're not the first to enable little ones to eat fruit nourished by the dust of our ancestors. We're just sort of midstream. At First Church in San Diego, where Carolyn and I were blessed to serve as co-ministers for 24 years, there exists a magnificent, perhaps you've seen it, a terracotta memorial wall with plaques listing the names of all who've died, church kin as well as their relatives. And the wall includes the names of all of four of our own beloved parents, with bricks for the two of us, and they're contiguous to one another. Very special. Perhaps our kids and grandkids too. And whenever we would meet with new members or take a tour of the grounds, we'd talk about the program life and ask what gifts they might have to bring, new ways that they might find their soul revealed. What could we be for them? And we'd walk around the grounds and we'd say, we want to introduce you to some of the other members of the congregation of past history. And we go up to the memorial wall. I'll never forget, there's a young boy who was 10 who was riding his bicycle and killed in a car accident. His mother, who worked on the other side of town, would come over at least twice a week and eat her lunch right in front of the wall. We'd like you to meet the rest of the community. This past Good Friday, I went by to kind of prepare myself for the scattering of Carolyn's cremains. And there was Jerry Tebolt, who inherited this work from Rhoda Lopez, who worked with my father-in-law years back. And that wall is so precious. I remember when Carolyn and I came in July of 1978, one of the first things we saw was a husband and a wife up on the ladders working on the wall, starting to craft the wall along with Jerry Tebow and Rhoda Lopez. And they were there about every other day. And I said, Rex and Kay, thank you. Where's the juice? They said, well, our son committed suicide when he was 18. We're just trying to pay forward. And there I was, and Jerry and I were in tears because Jerry was very close to Carolyn particularly. And he had just completed putting her name on the wall. And on the wall, it's not Josephine Jones and, you know, a poem or a lot about Josephine. It's Josephine Jones' birth year and death year. Everybody's equalized. The way it should be. And then I hallowed that, and then I took an urn from Japan of cremains. And not only were some of Carolyn's, but also some of her father's from 1989, and some of her mother's from 2000. I had forgotten we had those. And I scattered them as I wound my way through the labyrinth of trees and bushes and to the edge of the canyon and scattered them the best I could and sang, "There is a love holding me. There is a love holding you. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love." That's my gospel. Okay. We never fully, properly celebrate the present, let alone chart the future without cherishing the past, without actively remembering who we are and in whose debt we stand. As Maya Angelou rightly puts it, you are here because somebody has loved you enough to make sure that you're still here. You're here because somebody paid for you. It's our time to pay back. It's our time to pay forward. It's our time to pay homage. It's our time. It's our turn now. And as we move on and transition, it'll be somebody else's. I want to close with a story, one of my favorites. It tells a contest between an elephant and a thrush. Two unlikely contestants, but there they are. Huge animal, tiny little bird. And the elephant was boasting that he could make himself heard the farthest and dared the thrush to accept the challenge. And guess what? The thrush did. The elephant boasted that he could make himself heard the farthest and dared the thrush to accept the challenge. Then the elephant raised his trunk and sent forth a piercing blast. You can hear it. And the thrush quietly sang her song. And the judge went forth to find out how far each contestant had been heard. And on they traveled until no one could hear the elephant's sound any longer. Yet they could still softly hear, ever so softly, the song of the thrush. How come? I mean, how could the thrush's song possibly carry farther than the elephant's cry? The judges were mystified, and calmly the little bird explained, well, let me tell you. Our thrush family has sentinels stationed throughout the forest. And when one sings, another takes up the song. And then another, and then another, and then another, and then another. And so we pass it along until the melody is carried throughout the lands. There you got it. That's the essence of our mission as Summit sisters and brothers. Assume your positions as sentinels. We need you. Every one of us to partake fully in the transmission of this congregation's peculiar, not perfect melody. Don't go after purity. Take up the song from our precious pioneers and pace setters so that our singular tune, the precious, peculiar tune of Summit UU Fellowship, might be sung with gusto throughout this portion of East San Diego County and beyond, and far into seasons beyond counting. What a moment. What a joyous duty. What a blessing to suit up as a Summit Sentinel. What an honor. What a cosmic job. And so won't you join me in closing in 3 hip hip hoorays for all Summitarians, including yourselves, but for the past 36 years. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
What do we say now? I think a song. Offertory.
Piece of music called Abschied, and Abschied means farewell. But this is Abschied to a bigger piano suite by Robert Schumann called Waldszenen, where Schumann's words, I think, resonate very much with Tom's. I'm holding up a book here. I have a copy of this. I took it so I could show it to you. Somebody can take it from me. It's called Sauntering, a soul journey in the woods with Thoreau as my guide.
please stand for hymn 1028, Fire of Commitment. Take it out with gusto.
Bright and clear, guiding hands and from the stories
So let's share our benediction in unison. It's number 704. There it is. Okay. John Murray, the founder of Universalism in this country in Gloucester, Massachusetts, pressured, imprisoned, thrown out of the country, came to this land because he was committed to a gospel that included either everybody or nobody got in. That's our gospel. We share it in these words from 1790. Go out into the highways and byways. Give the people something of your new vision. You may possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God.
So we'll extinguish the chalice. We'll do our closing circle song, which will be impressive. Then a 10-minute bathroom and break to be with Tom out in his reception room where he's giving away his collection of books. And then back here, circle discussion, joys and concerns, feedback to Tom, gratitude to Tom, and then salon. Serafina. Oh, it's extinguished. Tom did it. Okay, thank you. Together, hand in hand.
Here we go.